Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Hari Om, salutations to all. So the first part of our Foundation Vedanta course, consisting 7 lessons, we have covered, and the 8th lesson was the summary of the whole 7 lessons, all the 7 lessons. Now we enter the second portion, which is from lesson number 9 to 15, where also the 15th one will be the summary. So 9 to 14 is the second part, which is the fundamentals of Vedanta. So we have seen in our earlier sessions that a culture, when we say the main focus, the main aspect of any culture is the core values, that what are the values that the culture entertains, the people entertain. The higher values they live, then they are living the greater culture, nobler culture. If those values they are not able to follow because of temptations within, desires, indulgences, not following selflessness, becoming very egocentric, then one will become more greedy, more corrupt, more violent, and that culture declines. So the decline of the culture is the decline of the values. And these values, to restore them, is the cultural revival. So as we have seen before, many great cultures have existed in the past, and they have gone through decadence. But when they have gone through decadence, there has not been any revival of those higher values of life, and so they have perished. In our country also, the cultural decadence has happened many times, but every time it has happened, there is a great master who comes up and who again revives the culture. So all of you had done a presentation also on some of these great masters. So Ramana Maharshi, Vedavyas ji, Swami Vivekanand ji, Ramakrishna Paramhamsa, like that, so many great masters. Now, when we understand this, that Hindu culture is a very unique culture. It is not like a culture which is born out of one person's thought. It is a collective evolution and revelation. So what is the foundation of Sanatana Dharma? The foundation of Sanatana Dharma is the Vedas. Vid means to know, and Veda means knowledge. So the great minds in the past, the great rishis, in their quiet moments, they have inquired into the deeper aspects of life. What is the purpose of life? How the creation came about? How this whole thing is going on so beautifully? And in their quiet moments, when they have gone beyond the ego and egocentric desires, in those quiet moments, revelations have happened to them. Now we should remember one thing, that revelation is a very valid means of knowledge, especially the knowledge which is subtle. Even science accepts revelation. Archimedes, simple example. The whole Archimedes principle, it is named after him because He was in search of that. How is it that these objects, which are huge, they are floating in water? The principle behind that, as he was in search of that, he was thinking, and whatever experiments also he did. And one day, as he was taking bath, suddenly it was revealed to him, the knowledge. Now, when we say revelation, it means that it's an intuitive insight that arises when that person is completely focused on that topic of inquiry. So this Vedic knowledge is not a composition of one person. Many great masters have been spending time doing their own subjective research, and the revelations that have happened to them, they are the Vedas. That's why we say Vedas are Anadi, Ananta, Apaurushaya. These three are very important aspects. They are not having any beginning. Like the knowledge, so gravity, when did gravity begin? With the creation itself. When did creation begin? That we cannot tell. We can give some time limit saying it 13.2 billion years. Some number we can give based on our estimation. But in Sanatana Dharma, we believe that the creation is a cycle. Creation, dissolution, creation keeps happening all the time. When did this first creation happen? Beginningless time. Because time itself is a part of this creation. So the knowledge which is revealed is a part of the whole process. So it does not have a beginning. And it is endless. Vedas as books may have got destroyed. So today the Vedic knowledge we have is only 10%. But knowledge itself is not destructible. And Veda means knowledge. So Vedas have no beginning, no end. And they are not written by human being. They may be compiled by a human being. So Vedavyas Bhagavan, he compiled it. Till the work that he did of compiling it, it was passed on from the Guru to the Shishya in the oral tradition through the instructions of the Guru and the remembrance and the memory of the Shishya. And that's how it was passed on. So it is not a creation of one person. Many great rishis at different times also, in different places, are inquiring on different topics, and to them the revelations have happened. Now somebody may ask a question, but how do we know that this is authentic? It may be that person's figment of imagination. So that is also cross-verified. The same revelations happen to other rishis also. Like Gayatri mantra is not a mantra which is revealed only to Vishwamitra Rishi. It is found in many Vedas. Same way, Om Namah Shivaya, simple. Om Namah Shivaya is not revealed only to one Rishi. So the three, Vasishtha, Vamadeva, Kahola, all of them have got the same revelation. And also we have to know that these great masters were selfless. Many of them did not even sign, okay, this is what was revealed to me, this is my composition, my creation, nothing. In the egoless state, what was revealed, they shared it with the whole universe. Their attitude was of selflessness. This knowledge has to go to the masses. So when they have risen above the ego and egocentric desires, there is a method of how they did that. And that is how they realized this knowledge. And that knowledge they passed it on. Vedavyas Bhagavan compiled it in a written form, made them into 4 Vedas. Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda. And each of the Vedas also he classified into 4 parts. Mantra, Aranyaka, Mantra, Brahmana, Aranyaka, Upanishad or Vedanta. 4 parts. See, many people say Hindu culture is not structured. Actually, it is very structured. Nice it is. The thing is, we have not studied our Vedas. Not even 1% of Hindu population has studied the Vedas. That is the sad aspect. People of other cultures, they study their book, whether it's a Quran or a Bible, they study the Torah, they will study. We have a lot of freedom and we have not insisted, and so our Sanatan Dharmis, they don't study the Veda properly. And today translations are available, commentaries are available, so many things are available. There is no excuse. There are talks on it available. The tragedy is people from abroad, they come here, they learn Sanskrit and they study our Vedas. They discover such fantastic techniques, such fantastic knowledge, so many secret, subtle aspects, and they feel so happy that this is a treasure house of wisdom and knowledge. So one has to study the Vedas. At least the crux of the Vedas is Vedanta, the Upanishads. One must at least study that. So what are these four portions? Mantra, Aranyaka, Mantra, Brahmana, Aranyaka, Upanishad. So mantra is all those mantras which are in the praise of the glories of the nature and the creation, and how the entire creation is a manifestation of the divine. So Rig Veda is considered historically. See, history is different and this philosophy is very different. Historically, based on some evidences, they say the oldest Veda is the Rig Veda, 5,000-year old. They may put a timeline to it. What the Vedas say, Anadi and Ananta, it is beginningless, endless. And many, many cycles of creation have happened in which many, many times this Vedic knowledge has been revealed. All this has happened time and again. Again, it has got declined, the revival has happened. So this has gone on and on and on. So Vedic knowledge, the first part of the Veda is called mantra. When the human beings were fascinated with nature and how the system is, how nature functions, and there are hymns, creation hymns. There are hymns of creation also which are there. The beauty of nature, the sun, the river, the mountains, all that beautifully explained, plus the higher aspects also. So for them, the Vedic masters, the whole universe was not just the tangible universe that we see, the invisible force behind that. The consciousness which is revealing through all these, enlivening all these. Through nature, they used to connect to that. So mantra portion is the hymns praising nature. Then comes the Brahmana portion. The Brahmana portion is the most elaborate one, which has rites and rituals. Because human being has desires to eat, drink, enjoy, to have a family, to earn wealth, to spend that on different methods of enjoyment. Many desires one has. Success, name, fame, progeny, prosperity. One wants all that. How will one attain that? Remaining in tune with the universe and the cosmic forces. How do I fulfill my desire? So the whole concept of yajna, rites, rituals, whereby we propitiate the cosmic forces, offer the ahutis, they are blessed with, they are benefited with the ahutis, they in turn bless the jiva with what they want. So mutually cooperating with each other, the human being as well as the cosmic forces work in harmony and both prosper. So that portion which elaborates about the various types of rituals. See, today we scoff at rituals. That is very strange. People may have exploited, people may not have told the meaning of it, understandable, but we have to understand this is a science, proper science. that how the rituals are done, the mantras which are chanted, the cosmic forces which are invoked. The jiva is not an individual. We are not just an individual entity. We are living in this world and just believe whatever we only see, because our vision and our senses have a limitation. Behind this huge visible universe, there is an invisible universe. Like simple example is brain is visible, mind is not visible. Can we say only brain exists? What makes that brain function? When we feel an emotion, we may feel certain things in our body, but who is feeling that emotion? There is a subtle entity, there is a mind. So gross entity is the brain. So through the brain, the mind is functioning. The very existence of the gross proves that the subtle exists. The whole universe which is there, from where did it come? Matter itself, from where did it come? So when we inquire into these questions, we understand there is an invisible universe. And there is a method to connect to them. That method is what the Brahmana portion is. So various rites and rituals are there. For various stages of life, for various results that we want. And when a person does follow those, then the person's desires also get fulfilled. It is like doing proper experiment. Now today, if 2 molecules of hydrogen, 1 molecule of oxygen you combine, water will be the result. It is like that. It is proper, scientifically experimented, time-tested truths which are valid even today. So that is the Brahmana portion. Then comes the Aranyaka portion. So those who have fulfilled the desires externally, they have attained name, fame, progeny, prosperity, whatever they wanted. Now they want to, but still there will be a certain emptiness. Now they want to experience what is that gaining which nothing remains to be gained. So their inquiry goes subtler. And then one realizes that for that the mind has to be calm, mind has to be pure, single-pointed, focused. So the Aranyaka portion is the various forms of worship, but subtler worship. So it is like meditations, different types of meditations, which will make the mind single-pointed. See, the earlier portion also, when I have a desire, I have to live in certain discipline, certain self-control, focus the energies to fulfill the desire outside. In the world also, we see that or not today. If somebody wants to, let us say, go get into IIT, how much discipline they will have? From 6th standard onward, the child now is, today's child is training himself or herself for IIT entrance. How many hours and hours and days together one has to study, get the knowledge, do the practice, solve the model question papers. One goes on and on and on. The mind gets focused, IIT, IIT, IIT. So selfish desires or desires for self-fulfillment also, mind gets focused. But because it is for I, there will also be stress, worry, tension, anxiety accompanied with that. Slowly that person realizes that I need to purify this. So become more selfless, surrender. So that's where Upasana comes in, which is the Aranyaka portion, where they meditate on subtler forms of the Lord, whether it be through a form or through nature. They make the mind quiet. Consciously, using a support system, the mind becomes quiet. And so, these forms of mental worship is called Upasana. So they propitiate the Lord doing the entire thing in the mind. Some of you may know that, there is a nice stotram called Shiva Manasa Puja. So one puja is the external puja where we worship the Shivalinga. And, externally we offer Abhisheka, we offer Archana, we offer Dhupa, Deepa, Naivedya, all that. Manas Puja means to do that entire thing in the mind, nothing external. Visualize a form in the mind, do the entire offering in the mind. That makes the mind also very strong, because no other thought one entertains except this. So Aranyaka portion has different forms of upasanas, and the Siddhanta of upasana is as we think, so we become. What we worship, what we adore, what we revere, we will internalize. So it transforms the individual much more powerfully than an external ritual. And today science has proved that or not. As we think, so we become. So if I am thinking more and more of the Supreme Lord, in whichever form, all those qualities of compassion, of forgiveness, of kindness, love, all those will come into a person. Peace, equanimity, fighting against the evil, aggressive goodness, all those things will come into the individual. So that is the mantra, Brahman, Aranyaka portion. And the last is the Upanishad. When that person's mind has become quieter, that person wants to know, who am I? Knowing which I will experience complete fulfillment, because in the world outside I have tried everything, I didn't get fulfillment. Now the only domain left is the world inside. So inquire into who am I? Find out from where the whole creation came. What is the connection between Jiva, Jagat and Ishvara? This inquiry into the source of Jiva, Jagat and Ishvara and the realization of their oneness is the last portion of the Veda, which is called Vedanta or Upanishad. Because it's the end portion of the Veda, it is called Vedanta. So Vedanta is that portion where one comes to experience the state of divinity as one's own true nature. And then one sees that the self in me is the self in all. There's only one truth manifesting as all the three. Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara is one truth. So this way the Vedas are divided. Now see, mantra, Brahmana, Aranyaka, Upanishad, these four are broad classifications for us to be able to understand what the Veda has. There may be some flexibility in terms of different mantras being spread out through different portions of the Veda. It's not a rigid classification. It's a broad general classification. And these four correspond to the 4 ages that we have seen before. If you remember, the 4 ages that we have seen was the age of gazing. So the age of gazing corresponds to the mantra portion, where they observed the nature, where they saw the nature and they worshipped and they were adoring nature. Then comes the age of observation, that comes to the Brahmana portion, where they observed, they understood the connections and they formed the rites and rituals by which they can propitiate the higher powers. Then came the age of scientific inquiry into the cause and the effect, and then going into the subtler aspect of worshipping the Lord, making the mind single pointed, having understood that the Lord is the cause of the whole universe. And then the 4th one is the age of contemplation, where one contemplates on the self, that I am pure consciousness, I am not this body, mind and intellect. That is the Upanishad, the Vedanta portion. So these 4 ages correspond to the 4 aspects of the Vedic knowledge, each Veda having these 4. Now what is important is, in our culture there is a vast range of literature. Vedas are the foundation of our culture, and the Vedas are called as Shruti. Why is it called Shruti? Shruta means heard. That knowledge which is heard. Heard meaning it is a revelation. It is not created by human being. So it's a revelation, and also it was passed on by the tradition of hearing and remembering. So the Vedic knowledge is called Shruti. The Vedas are called Shruti. And these are eternal principles, time-tested principles. But as we saw earlier, the times change, the value system and the attitude of people also changes, their capabilities change. So these eternal principles need to be adapted properly to the changing times. Like simple example, nowadays we don't do elaborate yajna and yaga, but we do Ishtadevata Upasana. We worship the Lord through a particular form. That's an adaptation. So the idea here is that Hindu culture, Sanatan Dharma, has been very flexible and adaptable. So that portion which is making people understand the eternal principles and apply them to their adapted situation, those books are called Smritis. Like Bhagavad Gita is a Smriti. And so many things in the Gita are an adaptation of the Vedic knowledge. Like Yajna is a ritual, but in the Gita, Yajna is called cooperative endeavor for a selfless cause. That's the principle of Yajna. And how now this can be applied in any place, in a workplace, in a corporate environment, in a family, in a country, everywhere this principle can be applied. That if together we work for a common cause, giving our best, sinking our differences, each one contributing without any compromise, selflessly. When together we work like this with this spirit of team building, then the goal that is achieved, the results are shared by all. Now this principle of yajna, in a ritual the same thing happens. Each one brings whatever they want, whatever they can. Somebody brings firewood, somebody brings flour, somebody brings ghee, flowers, all that. Different people bring different things. And then the yajna is done for the common cause and the results are shared by all. Now this principle is adapted, placed in the Gita so that human being can apply it in all situations. That literature is called Smriti. So we have Shrutis, we have Smriti. So Manu Smriti, Yajnavalkya Smriti, Parashar Smriti. Like that, there are different masters at different periods of time who have written according to the changing times. Like what are the duties of a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra? What are the duties of a Brahmachari, Grihasthi, Vanaprasthi, Sannyasi? By time things change, so these eternal principles are adapted to the changing times. So that is called as the Smriti. Then there is Puranas. Puranas are stories and various experiences, not experiences actually, incidents which have happened on earth, which have happened in the subtler realms. And Purana is like the history of the universe, not just the earth. The history of the whole, not universe I should say, history of the cosmos, the whole creation. In a sense, in a history of the whole creation, in the sense that it is not just talking about what has happened here. It is including the subtler realms, what happens there, how it affects us here, plus symbolism, plus what could happen, so possibilities. So it's a very vast literature with many different aspects to it. Some things are poetic, some things are scientific, some things are possibilities, some things are symbolic, but beautifully expressed through mystical stories. So as a child, one gets fascinated also when one listens to these stories, and one's imagination also increases, creativity. Many things happen when one listens to these stories. As one grows, one finds that the same story has a subtler principle, Vedantic understanding, and it can help me in my personality development as well as in my spiritual progress. Like simple example, Samudra Manthan. Now Samudra Manthan is one aspect where one says Devtas, Asuras, they came together, they churned the ocean, and then so many things came out. Poison also came out. Shivji drank the poison. Lakshmi came out, Airavat came out, you know, Parijata tree came out. Like that, many things came out, and each one took different things. Finally, Amrit came. Now, this story, when we listen, for a child, it is a story and it is fascinating, and then the child starts imagining. As one grows, one actually understands that it has a subjective connotation. The churning between the good thoughts, the bad thoughts, and various things which are hidden in the mind, they will start manifesting as I churn. Potential starts manifesting. So one understands that in a deeper light. So there are 18 Puranas, 6 divided. See, again, that's why I'm saying how structured it is. We somehow think that it is not structured. Vedas are structured. That principle applied in a changing time is the Smritis. Then to understand those principles right from childhood, then the Puranas are written. 18 Puranas. The Puranas also classified. 6 Puranas for Devi, 6 Puranas for Shiva, 6 Puranas for Vishnu. And all connected with these. So 6 Puranas connected to Shiva will also include Ganesh Puran, because connected to Shiva's family in that way. Skanda Puran connected to Shiva. So 18 Puranas, 18 Upapuranas. And even the Vedas, if we want to study, there are 6 limbs of the Vedas which we should know if I want to study the Veda properly. Shiksha, phonetics. Kalpa, rituals. Nirukta is the vocabulary, glossary. Shiksha, Kalpa, Nirukta, Chandas, the science of meter. That what meter this mantra is in, then we can chant it appropriately. Like Gayatri mantra has 24 syllables. So all the mantras written in 24 syllables are called Gayatri mantra. So there is a meter, Anushtup Chanda. We'll have 32 syllables in one shloka. So Gita shlokas are written in that meter. So Chandas is the science of prosody or the meter. Then Vyakarana, grammar. And Jyotisha, astrology, astronomy. Now these are 6 limbs of the Vedas. And there are 4 Upavedas also. Ayurveda, the science of health and life. Then Dhanurveda, the science of warfare, archery, weapons, all that. Ayurveda, Dhanurveda, Gandharva Veda, dance, music, all those things. Sthapatya Shastra, architecture. Sthapatya Shastra and Artha Shastra, architecture and economics. These are 4, which are Upavedas. So 4 Vedas, 4 Upavedas, 6 Vedangas, 18 Puranas, 18 Upapuranas. Look at the treasure of wisdom that we have in our culture. Vast amount of literature. This is up, and then there are 2 Itihasas, which are Ramayana and Mahabharata. So Ramayana and Mahabharata are called Itihasa. Itiha asa. It thus happened. So it is a description of things which have happened factually. Put up in a poetic way also, put up with devotion, etc. So, but the people who wrote these were contemporaries who were existing at that time. That's why they are called history. Puranas are not called history, Itihasa. See, Itihasa literally, in Hindi it is history, but Sanskrit doesn't mean history. It only means it thus happened. Puranas, when Vedavyas was writing, he was not there in those times. But when Mahabharata he was writing, he was there. Valmiki was there when Ramayana actually happened, so he wrote it down. Hence, it is a different literature category called Itihasa Puran. So now see, this is the vast wealth of knowledge that we have in our Sanatan Dharma. There are many other things also which are there. How the sciences have developed. 6 schools of philosophy are there that we will see as we proceed ahead. So this entire vast literature is our treasure house, and we must explore the original. There are many vested interests who want us to hate our scriptures, so they do perverted translations. They misguide people. When we study the original or some authentic scholars who have written appropriately, then we are able to understand the depth and the beauty of our culture. So this Veda, the great rishis to whom this was revealed, they are like the subjective scientists. Objective scientist will analyze the world outside, but the subjective scientist will analyze the world within. So their inquiry went into that domain. And just like the objective scientist withdraws into a laboratory, the subjective scientist withdraw into the forests. And they inquire into life and the subtler aspects and the reasoning behind it. So many things that they inquire into. What they found, that life is a series of experiences. This is a very nice definition that Gurudev has given here. In your course material, it's on page 4. That what is it that makes an individual alive? So they were trying to find out that factor, because when a body is dead, it doesn't respond at all. The organs are still there, but the body is not responding. What makes that body respond? So they said there is some presence in this body, because of which we call it life. It is alive. And when it is alive, then this body is able to face various things in life. So they defined life as a series of experiences, that one by one experiences come, and this series of experiences, when they come, when the person is alive, that person is able to respond. So, and based on that response of that person, some experiences that person will have. So they classified, first of all, they said life is a series of experiences. And then they said to have an experience, you need 3 things. There's a classification: experiencer, experienced, and the connection between the two, which is experiencing. So for example, right now you are experiencing this. You are listening to the talk. You are the experiencer. The sound that is coming, the visual that you are seeing is the experienced object. And then the connection between the two is the experiencing. So every experience of life will have these 3. Each experience of life is like a brick in a wall. Every brick constitutes the wall. The strength of the wall depends on each and every brick. Same way, the quality of our life depends on the quality of these 3: experiencer, experienced, and experiencing. Now in these 3, the objective scientists and the economists and the politician, etc., as we have seen earlier, tries to make the experienced, the world outside, better. And no doubt that is necessary, required, it is helpful. Great masters in the past also have done that. Today also it is being done. No doubt that is required. But however great the external world may be, if the experiencer does not contact the experienced properly, if the attitude is not great, amongst all the facilities, comforts, conveniences, also one will be miserable. So the subjective scientist, the Rishi, said, let us discover who is this experiencer, what is making this inert body, mind, intellect alive. So they started dissecting the experiencer, because if the experiencer is changed, experience will change no matter what is the outside experienced object. It doesn't matter. So many people who have become great achievers, they have become great in spite of circumstances, because they have invoked something within themselves which is strong, which is mighty, which is powerful, which is able to give them the ability to overcome any external obstacle, challenge, threat, limitation. So this experiencer, who is this experiencer? How to integrate this experiencer? And then identify in the core, what is that which is making me alive? So they started dissecting this. And when they started analyzing this human personality, they came to understand this factor. See, one thing is, when we say they started dissecting, analyzing, to a certain extent, they started inquiring, but at a point that inquiry goes into the realm of intuition, where one transcends their ego, then this knowledge gets revealed just like that. Like I told you, Archimedes example or a Newton example. Now they keep inquiring into what is the cause of the apple falling down. Logic inquiry leads them to a certain direction in a certain way, up to a certain level. Then they transcend that realm of intellect into intuition. Then the intuitive knowledge arises. That's called revelation. So to these great masters who are inquiring in this way, this revelation has happened. What is the revelation? That there is a force which is indestructible, imperishable, which is infinite, which is at the core of our personality, which they called as Om. That is the source of all life. That is the nature of consciousness. But this Om is not experienced by us because it is covered as though by 5 layers. So the whole personality is divided into 5 layers. And that enlivening factor is Om. So in your course material on page 6, if you see, there's a diagram which is given. Concentric circles. Right now we will focus only on this concentric circle, this triangle, etc., which is there. That we will be taking up in the further chapter, so that we will not, don't worry about that right now. This concentric circles, you see Om is in the center. Now don't think that Om is one small little thing inside. This circular depiction is only to show that it is to be realized within by turning the attention away from outside to inside. It does not mean it's a small little thing inside. Like how we open, suppose somebody gives us a gift. Now that gift box, you open that one box, there's another inside it. You open another box, that third one inside it. That third you open, fourth. And the final gift is so small, one ring it may be. So don't imagine it to be like that, layer after layer, if you remove, then Atma will be one small little thing inside the heart somewhere. No. It only is to turn the attention within and to show us which layer is grosser, which layer is subtler. So these 5 layers of the personality, they are called 5 sheaths. They are called sheath because they cover. What are they covering? The self, pure consciousness. Now what are these 5 sheaths? So another example for sheath is the sword. The sword remains in the scabbard and you open it out, you take it out, use it, again put it back. So how the scabbard protects the sword, same way it is. This Om is as though inside. Scabbard is the 5 sheets, Om is the self inside. So Om is as though covered by these layers of these 5 sheets. Now, what are these 5 sheets? First sheet is called the food sheet. The grossest, what is visible to us is this food sheet. See, this is the body actually. The physical body, it is called Annamaya Kosha, food sheet. Why? Because it is made up of food. The food of the mother and the father gives birth to the child. And then that child is sustained on the food. And as that person grows, becomes old, and then may die, that person again becomes food, manure for the plants and the creatures. So, born out of food, sustained by food, goes back to become the food. Now, one important point to understand here is this. These are layers of the personality. This is not our true nature. Atma means Om, that is our true nature. But today we have forgotten that and we think we are this. Are we just byproducts of food? Idli, dosa, vada, Chinese, continental, pizza, whatever we have eaten. This is a byproduct of that. Are we just this? This is born out of food, sustained by food, goes back to become food. How can I be a bundle of food? So this food sheet is this. How is this food digested, assimilated? How does it transform into energy and all that? How is it kept alive? There is a dynamic, vital energy, vital force which is going on in this body. So that is the second sheath. So the second sheath is Pranamaya Kosha, or the vital air sheath. So prana is not air. Prana is not oxygen. Prana is a life-giving vital force which is there in all the 5 elements: space, air, fire, water, earth. Prana Shakti is there in all. And hence it is this Prana Shakti we consume through all the 5 elements. When we eat food, we are consuming prana of the earth. When we drink water, we are taking prana from water. When we expose ourselves to sunlight, then we take prana from fire. When we do deep breathing and regulate the breathing, then that is prana from air. And when we do upvas, it is prana from the space. Now, these 5 prana, these 5 elements from which we take the prana, how does that prana help in sustaining this body and dynamically using this energy for action and for thinking? See, prana is a fuel. It is that fuel which connects, which is used by the body and the mind, both. To think also we need prana shakti. So the more stressful thoughts we have, more prana shakti gets exhausted, more we are drained. And to do any physical movement, walking, talking, eating, working, we again use prana shakti. So prana is the fuel, and prana is that which connects both body and mind also. So how is this prana functioning in the body? So there are pancha pranas. What are these pancha pranas? Prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana. These are 5. Prana is all that which we inhale and exhale. Faculty of inhalation, exhalation. Apana, all the things that we give out. So evacuation and rejection, waste from the whole body. Then prana, apana. Vyana is the circulation. Circulation of the blood in the body, and then through the blood all the nourishment reaches. Prana, apana, vyana. Udana is the reverse processes, vomiting, burping, all these. And udana is that which also helps the subtle body to eject out of the gross body at the time of death. Ut means up. So udana means to take out the prana and go out of the body. So you must have seen, how when a person drops the body, Sometimes the eyes will remain open, sometimes mouth will open. So the Udana Vayu ejects out of the body through any of these holes in the body. So either through eyes, through ears, through nose, through mouth, it will eject. This is the Udana Vayu. Then the fifth one is Samana, is the absorption. Digestion and assimilation of all the food and the liquid we take. It absorbs properly and the whole body will absorb. It digests and then the body will assimilate and absorb it. So these pranas, they function, and as long as they function, that person is alive. But what is important to know is by themselves prana cannot function unless consciousness enlivens it. So this is also a sheath. This is not consciousness. Because prana modifies. Prana is inert, so prana cannot be consciousness. But it is a vital energy. So food sheath sustained by prana. Each sheath we should remember, the earlier sheath is grosser, the later on sheath is subtler. So food sheath is much more grosser. So the body is only from the top of the head to the tip of the toe. That much it is, the body. Pranamaya kosha is more than this body. So along with prana functioning in the body, there is a subtle energy field around us also, which they call today as aura. That is pranamaya kosha. Then what is making this prana function is the mental sheath, manomaya kosha. Because as the mind's emotion is, the prana also will change according to that. Body also will go through changes according to that. So the subtler than body and the prana is the mind. And subtler than the mind is the buddhi, intellect. That is called Vijnanamaya kosha. So now what is this Manomaya and Vijnanamaya kosha? What is the distinction? Together it is called subtle body, Manomaya kosha, Vijnanamaya kosha, mind and intellect. So what is the mind and what is the intellect? So in the course material, if you see on page 8, there are different expressions given here, different points given here to distinguish clearly. But they are one and the same as far as the subtle body is concerned. We are using two different terms because they are the same subtle body in two different states. When there is a state of emotion, we call mind. When it is a state of rational thought, we call it intellect. But it is the same individual subtle body. And so, what are the differences? See, first difference is that what is the job? Mind will receive all the stimulus. Like the eyes can only see, ears can only hear, nose can only smell, tongue can only taste, skin can only touch. Same way other 5 sense organs of action. 10 sense organs which we have, 5 are knowledge, 5 are action. So this knowledge, receiving of all this knowledge, who coordinates all the 5 and presents one complete picture, that coordinating entity is called as the mind, which coordinates with each of the senses, makes a complete picture, presents it to the buddhi, and as per the knowledge of the buddhi, the sense organs of action will respond. Action and knowledge will respond. This is a system. So one is the coordinator, one is the deciding factor. How to decide what to do, what not to do. Typically, this is how it should function. But many times what happens, the mind overwhelms the intellect, emotions overwhelm the intellect. It is not doing only the job of receiving clerk. Gurudev has given that example. That the mind is like a receiving clerk. Organizes all the mails, classifies all that, and then according to instructions of the officer in charge, will distribute the mail. So in the same way, that's how the system is supposed to function. that mind is coordinating between the senses and the intellect, and intellect takes the decision because of proper knowledge, and then go out and respond into the world with that much of clarity. So this is one difference. Mind is a receiving clerk, coordinating; intellect is the deciding factor. Second, mind is a continuous flow of thoughts and emotions, like the river is a flow of water. What guides this water is the banks. So what are the values, what are the ideals, the goals that the intellect has that should direct our emotions and thoughts? Banks determine. If the banks are not strong, the river will not flow properly. The water will just spread everywhere and get absorbed in the earth. But the river is a river because of the banks properly guiding the water. So in the same way, our own mind also is the thoughts, is the emotions. Now this mind must be guided properly by the values, higher values, by proper goals, by proper ideals. Then they will work in alignment. Like in Arjun's case, the buddhi knows that he is supposed to fight the war and protect dharma. That is the goal, that is the value, that is their temperament. But then the emotions overwhelmed him. When emotions overwhelmed him, then what happened? The clarity gone. And the mind started taking judgments. Officer in charge, the buddhi is put aside. Impulsively, the one mind starts reacting. I don't want to fight. I want to run away. I will go into the forest. All that. So, what is important is the buddhi must guide, like the banks of the river. Then the third is, as we said just now, mind is the seat of emotions, intellect is the seat of rational thoughts. And emotions also can be positive. It's not a bad connotation. Positive emotions, negative emotions. Is the seat of emotions is the mind. And seat of rational thoughts, logic, proper scientific inquiry, ideals, ideologies, that is the intellect. So I am a capitalist, I am a communist, I am a democrat, I am a believer, non-believer, I am punctual. All those values and ideals and philosophies, they all are a part of the buddhi. Then the fourth one is mind functions in the realm of the known, but buddhi functions even in the realm of the unknown. So the realm of the known is what, because the mind connects to the senses, it perceives the realm of the known. What is known to it from the physical perception as well as from its own past experience and memory. But the intellect has the ability to go into the unknown realm. So innovation, creativity, new thinking, new horizons, new possibilities of inventions, discoveries, that is the realm of the buddhi. So all the technology, progress, advancement, whether in the spiritual world or in the scientific world, external world, happens by this intellect. Because one explores new possibilities. Gurudev has given here one example of a few decades ago, the mind of an individual could conceive only of an aircraft, of how to fly from one place to other. Few centuries ago, that was also not possible. But the buddhi went into that realm of the unknown, made it possible to fly. But it was not possible then to think about going to space. And today we have sent Chandrayaan 2 also. So the idea here is that how it did that happen? Because the buddhi starts exploring new possibilities. And the last one is, in the quality also, Mind has the tendency to be doubtful, to be indecisive, and the intellect is decisive, firm, clear. So when any situation is there, the mind may appear dicey. Should I do this? Should I not do this? What should I do? That state of doubt is called the mind. And the same person, when that person becomes decisive, then that person is using the buddhi. So mind, what was mind at one moment becomes the buddhi at the other moment. Indecisiveness is the state of mind. Decisiveness is a state of buddhi. So it's the same thing. That's why we are saying it's the same entity, same subtle body. Based on its function, based on its state, we call it mind or intellect. These are the third and the fourth layer. Manomaya kosha is the mind, Vijnanamaya kosha is the intellect. Now we identify with each of these koshas. We should not forget that. I am tall, I am dark, I am young, I am handsome, I am thin, I am old. These are identification with the food sheet. The fact is the body is young, the body is old, the body is dark, handsome, or whatever. That is the state of the body. I am a enlivener of this body. I exist before the body, after the body also. Same way pranas. 5 pranas, they keep this body active and alive. I am not the prana. Prana fluctuates. Prana is inert. Prana doesn't know itself. But I know who am I. I am a living entity, sentient. Manomaya kosha. So all the emotions and doubts and indecision and stress, worries, love, happiness, those emotions when we go through, that is the manomaya kosha. Then when I identify with the buddhi, so as we said earlier, I am a socialist, I am a democrat, I am a capitalist, I am a atheist, I am a believer, I am a thinker, I am a poet. Whatever I think about myself, my self-esteem, my values, my ideals, my goals, that is the buddhi. And the bliss sheath, the last one is the bliss sheath. When in the state of deep sleep, we withdraw from the body, mind and intellect, we are in a complete state of quietude, peace. Why? Because the disturbing factors are not there, so it's a relative peace. And that relative peace, which is absence of agitation, is called as the bliss sheath. In that state, there is only vasanas, unmanifest form. There are no thoughts, no desires, no actions, no results, nothing, no world outside. One is closest to the Atma and one experiences lot of bliss because one is closest to the Atma, as well as there is absence of agitations of the mind and the intellect. The ego is not there. So the bliss sheet of everybody is same. In deep sleep, everybody experiences homogeneous bliss. Waking and dream state of our people are different because the mind and intellect are active and each mind and intellect is different. So now these are called the 5 sheets. These 5 sheets, now remember this is bliss sheet, this is not bliss of Brahman. It is called bliss sheet. These 5 sheets are covering as though the Atma. What is the meaning of they are covering the Atma? They are covering the Atma, meaning I have forgotten who I am and I am thinking of myself to be these 5 sheets. So the experiencer consists of Atma enlivening the 5 sheets, like the electricity enlivening the bulb. Now the bulb cannot function without the electricity. But if somebody says that no, bulb is giving light on its own, there is nothing called electricity. That is absurd. Same way, all the 5 are actually inert, made up of 5 elements: body, mind, body, prana, mind, intellect, and bliss sheath. All the 5 by themselves cannot function at all. They are enlivened by Atma. That's why they are called sheath. They are enlivened by Atma, but as though they are covering the sheath. How they are covering? By false identification. When I think that I am these five, like if I forget who am I and I think I am this computer, then my true knowledge of who I am is covered by this false identification. I am this computer. How can I be this computer? Computer is something that I have and I'm using right now to communicate with you. Same way, the body is something that I have. I'm using the body to communicate with the world, but I am not the body. So the sheets, that is how they cover. So the experiencer is made up of these two aspects: the personality, which is the five sheets, five layers of the personality, and the reality, which is Om. Both these come together, then this equipment is alive and responses happen. Now, what is the purpose of studying this? One is that I should know layers of personality. One. Then I can appropriately take care of each layer properly. So if the body is made up of food, sustained by food, goes back to food. The right type of food if I give to this body, then the body will be healthy and body will also be able to produce, it will be effective in giving us the results that we want. It will help us to act efficiently. It's a tool. One has to take care of it. Pranamaya kosha. How to tap the prana, the power of prana. Those five things that we said, from each element, how we take prana. So when we engage in those things, then the pranamaya kosha is strong. Today, pranamaya kosha is very weak. That's why one exhausts oneself so fast. Manomaya kosha. How to use the power of emotion, not to get used by them. Buddhi, Vijnanamaya kosha, is how to stay uncompromising on my ideals and values. So what we saw earlier, Satyam at the intellectual level, Ahimsa at the mind level, Brahmacharya is at the prana and the body level. How we follow these. Then the equipment can be trained and made strong. Bliss sheath, we don't have any control on, deep sleep state. But if these four we are able to tune up well, automatically our mind will get into bliss, into deep sleep very effectively. One will not have any problem into getting into deep sleep. The quality of sleep will be improved. Now these five layers, once I understand, I can appropriately nourish, nurture them and align all of them together. If there's a misalignment in each one, then that personality will dissipate. Like when we did the BMI chart, we did that. How Gurudev explained through the example of that sweet, that one part of the personality, the body says, come on, eat it. The mind says, don't eat. And the buddhi says, don't eat. So, two parts of the personality don't want me to eat, one part wants to eat. Now there is a conflict. In that, so much energy gone. Same way, five layers of the personality, conflict happens. So how to align them? Vedanta tells us many methods to align these five layers. And ultimately, what is the objective? That I should transcend my identification with these five and realize that my nature is pure consciousness, which is indestructible, imperishable, unborn, unchanging. That is my true nature. I am not this equipment, these five sheets. So once a person understands this, the experiencer becomes very strong. No matter what is the experienced world, the response will be how I respond is in my control, because I've aligned these personalities. And I've also come to know that I am something beyond the three: experiencer, experience, and experiencing. So this is what the 9th chapter is about, the fundamentals of Vedanta. To understand the personality, to understand the reality, to understand the foundation of this Vedantic knowledge is the Vedas. And the Vedas are a revelation. And this is time-tested knowledge. So many great masters have followed this knowledge of Vedanta, the Upanishads, and they have come to realize the self. So it is time tested, proven knowledge. So for today, that is what we will stop. We have completed lesson 9. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.